Here's Jake Asman.
Let's talk some NBA playoffs. Only one game on the schedule last night. It ended up being a blowout. Phoenix dismantled the Denver Nuggets 123-98. Chris Paul, a huge game, 17 points, dominated as a facilitator as well. And for more on that game and the NBA playoffs as a whole, we go out to the progressive guest line right now. We bring on Dan Feldman, who covers the NBA for NBC Sports. Dan, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for a few minutes this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with the game last night. Your big takeaways. Suns now lead the series 2-0. And, you wrote about Chris Paul for NBC Sports. He took control in game two. How impressive was that performance in your eyes?
It was great. Chris Paul is such a good playoff player, and it's a shame that people are so hung up on a few of his bad games. And he's had, some major letdowns in the postseason. There's no question that's part of it. But even if you include that, he has throughout his career been awesome in the playoffs, even with those weighing down his overall postseason record. He is so smart. He knows exactly what he's doing. Such a good passer, such a good shooter. He's got good teammates around him in Phoenix. What a great performance. And I just expect more of the same. I think the Suns are way better than the Nuggets. The Nuggets are riddled with injuries, especially at guard. And, the Suns were the better team throughout the season. This looks like a mismatch.
15 assists last night for Chris Paul. So, Dan, if he stays healthy, and that's always a big question with Chris Paul, just ask Rockets fans right here in town. If he's healthy, do you view Phoenix as the best team in the West right now, or is it still Utah?
Oh, it's close. It's very, very close. They're both very good teams. I've been a believer in both teams throughout the year. They both all along had a chance to win a championship. That'd be a fun series if we get it.
You look at Utah, and obviously for them to win game one without Mike Conley, can you get into the significance of just how much that means for them and what it says really about where the Clippers are right now?
The Clippers are tired. They played a grueling 7-game series against the Mavericks. They had to go to Utah, play in altitude. That's why their rotation was so deep. They didn't look like they had their legs under them. And, I think that's something that'll get better as the series goes on. But for Utah to win a game, right, it's a best of 7 series. Every win is so huge. You can make whatever excuses you want. You can say that the Clippers might be, I would say the Clippers would be the slightly better team going forward in this series. But once you're down 1-0, if you're only slightly better, that might not be enough.
What is it with the Clippers that there just seems to be, an inability to ever, just get it done and, make things easy on themselves? Like even in, of course, their series win over the Mavs, it still had to go 7, and they were clearly the far more talented team. What do you think it is? What do you think is missing with the Clippers?
It's a good question. Don't know. I mean, after last year, it seemed like the problem was, they don't have the right mentality about practicing during the regular season, about taking the regular season seriously. Not everybody was on the same page by the playoffs. Their chemistry was bad. So they made changes and seemed to improve on those things the best they could. I would say the one area where they didn't quite get their chemistry where they wanted it is integrating Serge Ibaka, a newcomer who was hurt at times. And, he's hurt now and isn't playing. There's a lot of players who seem like they should be more comfortable together out there on the court. It's tough to say just why they have these struggles. I'm sure they're searching too.
Talking with Dan Feldman, covers the NBA for NBC Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan Feldman NBA. Looking ahead to tonight's games, Dan, Brooklyn at Milwaukee. The Nets, of course, lead that series 2-0. I mean, is anything going to change here? Do you expect a better effort from Milwaukee now that they're at home, or is Brooklyn just so far superior it might not even matter?
I think we tend to overreact to what's happened. I don't think the Nets are that much better than the Bucks, but man, it's really hard to see how Milwaukee is going to win a game in this series. The Nets have been way better offensively, and the Nets have been better defensively too. That's what's really incredible about this. We've questioned the Nets defense all year. They're really stepping up right now against the Bucks. They seem to really have a great understanding of what the Bucks want to do. They're taking Milwaukee out of its comfort zones. Going back to Milwaukee will help the Bucks, but that's not going to be enough. They're going to need to figure something out. I don't know what that is.
You look at Giannis, and he of course has not been great so far through these first two games. Even if they lose tonight, like just how much pressure is on him to at least go out there and have a great game and give his team a legitimate chance.
And you know what? Really, not that much because he signed that Supermax extension. Can you imagine how we would be viewing this series if he hadn't signed that extension last year? If he were going into unrestricted free agency, and I wonder what he's thinking now. He has not played up to standard, no question. Some of this is on him. But his supporting cast isn't good enough. His coach isn't good enough. And maybe those other two elements will get it together the rest of the series. But he tied himself to the Bucks going forward. And the way this is going, they've already traded so many draft picks for Drew Holiday. They're capped out because they've got these good players. They are a good team. They're just not a good enough team. I wonder what Giannis is thinking about sticking with Milwaukee now.
So what happens if they flame out here? Because you mentioned it. You only get so many chips in the NBA, and they use their chips on Drew Holiday and the other moves they've made to put this team together. Is it as easy as, well, you can't fire the players, so maybe it's Budenholzer, the coach, that loses his job in all this?
Yeah, I think that's probably how it goes. And Budenholzer has not been a good playoff coach, right? He's done such a good job in the regular season. He has elevated this team, but he might have elevated it higher than he can take it. So maybe this would be a very attractive job. It's rare that you get such a good, talented team, with a vacancy. So if you can get a coach who's better in the postseason, who can take you to that next level, I think you've got to look at it.
Dan Feldman covers the NBA for NBC Sports with us here. As far as the Nets, Dan, I mean, they, of course, have looked amazing so far through these first two games. Do you think it's their championship to lose right now?
The Nets, I wouldn't go that far. I do consider them the most likely team to win a championship at this point. But it's so wide open. It's so fun this year. There's not the one dominant team. I mean, James Harden is banged up. I don't think you can go as far as say it's the Nets to lose. That's too much on them. Where if they don't win it, like I don't think they deserve to be viewed as, oh, they really blew it. But man, they do have an opportunity here.
Give me your thoughts on the Sixers and the Hawks. That series heads back to Atlanta, tied at a game apiece. Atlanta's got to be feeling good that they got the road split, and I'm sure Philly feels really good that they were able to come out and play as well as they did in game two.
Yeah, the 76ers should feel better. They're the better team. They've shown that throughout the regular season, and Joel Embiid is healthy. I'm shocked given what his injury is. With his meniscus, it didn't seem like he'd be able to play this well. He's playing very, very well. You wouldn't even be able to tell he's hurt. So I just think the 76ers will continue to be the better team going forward. Good for the Hawks for getting that game. They played well. The Hawks do have capability, but I do think the 76ers should feel good about where they're at. And it might not be, winning the series in 5, but I think they're positioned to win this series.
Have we seen, this Trae Young leap during this playoff run so far? Is he taking that next step from, borderline star to, a guy that's turning himself into a superstar in the league?
So I viewed him as a star going in, and I don't think he's a superstar now, but I do think he has risen through stardom, if that makes sense. He didn't even make the All-Star game this year, and now he's somebody who I think is going to more dependably be viewed as an All-Star. Such a good player, a good passer. It's so underrated about his game. It's his best attribute. People look at his shooting. No, he's a much better passer, an expert in the pick and roll. The Hawks have given him good surrounding talent. He's a star. He's a star. But like superstar, to me, those are players carrying their teams at a higher level who are defending. And that's going to be a weak spot for him. But he's so good offensively. And the Knicks were the very biggest test either. They were a team that tried really hard in the regular season. They were a better regular season team. Beating the Knicks is nice. They did what was in front of them. But a superstar's got to be able to go further than that, and maybe he'll step up this rest of the series against Philadelphia. But I think he's got to do more to get to that level.
Dan, talking about superstars here, staying with that conversation, Dame Lillard, a lot of rumblings about his future in Portland. Do you believe he has played his final game with the Trailblazers?
At every turn, Damian Lillard has said how loyal he is to Portland, how much he wants to spend his whole career with the Trailblazers. I take him at his word. I'm sure he's a little restless about losing. I'm sure, in the first round, I'm sure he wants to go further in the playoffs. But in terms of commitment to the Trailblazers, I see no wavering.
Talking to Dan Feldman here, NBC Sports. So, Dan, finally, some of the jobs that are open right now, Portland, of course, being one of them for head coach. Indiana just fired their coach yesterday. Boston is, of course, now looking for a head coach to replace Brad Stevens, who's now the GM. What to you is the most attractive job that's open right now?
Well, it's the Celtics or Trailblazers, depending on what you're looking for as a coach, right? East Coast versus West Coast. The Trailblazers are really good right now with Damian Lillard, but expectations are going to be higher for more immediate success, and I think it's going to be hard to meet those. I don't think the roster is as good as the Trailblazers management thinks it is. It's still good, but it's not quite there. Where the Celtics, you've got Jaylen Brown, you've got Jason Tatum, you've got young talent. I don't think they're going to be itching for immediate success quite in the same way, but there's going to be pressure there. But like we were talking about before, you can also just wait for the Bucks job because that's going to be the most attractive for sure.
Very good point. Dan Feldman has been our guest here at Dan Feldman NBA, covers the NBA for NBC Sports. Check out his work there. Dan, appreciate you getting up early for us. Thanks so much for a couple minutes, man. Continued success. Love reading your work.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Dan Feldman with us there on our Progressive guest line. Drivers who save with Progressive save over $750 on average. I had not thought of that point. The jobs that are open right now, right? Portland, Indiana now, Boston, Milwaukee opens up, and you get to coach Giannis. That's an attractive job. That team is the closest to winning out of any of the openings we have right now. Look at the openings. Any other team that's going to get eliminated here, going to fire their coach. Like Mike Malone's not in danger in Denver. Monty Williams, Quinn Snyder, no. Tyler Lue just got the job, no. Milwaukee will end up being the most attractive job because of Giannis, if that job does open up, if they move on from Budenholzer. Good stuff there from Dan Feldman. Up next, we wrap up hour 1 of 2. We'll take your calls. If you want to get in on the football, the Islanders, or the NBA, now's your chance. 800-224-2004. More coming up right here. Jake Asman with you. This is the Jake Asman Show on Sports Map Radio.
The Jake Asman Show.
Harry Mays with us here. All right, Harry,